Europe's strangest places where almost nobody lives. What if I told you that in Europe, there are places so remote? Mail arrives only a few times a month. Airports don't exist. And in some villages, you can go days without seeing another person. From Arctic outposts to wind-battered islands, today we're exploring Europe's strangest places, where almost nobody lives, and some of these feel like the edge of the world. Let's begin. 10. Flatey Island, Iceland. In the cold waters of Iceland's Breiðafjörður Bay sits Flatey Island, small, quiet, and almost frozen in time. Today, only about 5 people live here year-round. That's not 500, only 5. But Flatey wasn't always this empty. In the 19th century, it was a bustling fishing and trading hub, home to several hundred residents. Then modern shipping routes changed, jobs disappeared, and families slowly moved away. Now, winter on Flatey is defined by silence. There are no supermarkets, no hospital, and during harsh weather, even the ferry can't run. Daily life here requires planning days, sometimes weeks, ahead. Supplies must be ordered in advance. Medical emergencies require evacuation by boat or helicopter, and during winter storms, residents can be completely cut off. Yet those who stay often say the same thing. The isolation isn't a burden. It's the point. Ni Ittoqqortoormiit, Greenland. If Flatey feels remote, Ittoqqortoormiit raises the stakes dramatically. Located on Greenland's eastern coast, this settlement of roughly 350 people is one of the most isolated inhabited communities in the Northern Hemisphere. For much of the year, sea ice blocks access. There are no roads connecting it to other towns, and flights depend heavily on weather conditions that can change in minutes. In winter, temperatures routinely plunge below -20 degrees Celsius. Polar night brings weeks of darkness, and daily life revolves around survival skills that many modern Europeans have never needed. Hunting and fishing remain important here. Groceries, when available, are extremely expensive due to transport costs. Fresh produce can be rare, and yet the community remains. Because for many residents, the Arctic isn't hostile, it's home. 8. Foula, Scotland. Far out in the Atlantic, west of mainland Shetland, lies Foula, one of Britain's most remote, permanently inhabited islands. Population? About 30 people. Foula sits so far into the Atlantic that weather rules everything. Flights land on a tiny grass airstrip when conditions allow. The ferry runs only a few times per week. And in winter storms, the island can be effectively cut off. Daily life here requires resilience. Fuel deliveries must be carefully scheduled. Food supplies are limited. Medical care requires travel to the mainland. But Foula offers something increasingly rare in modern Europe: true quiet. No traffic, no crowds, just cliffs, seabirds, and the constant sound of wind off the Atlantic. 7. Campione d'Italia, Italy. Now for a different kind of isolation. Campione d'Italia is not empty. Nearly 2,000 people live here. But geographically, it's one of the strangest towns in Europe, because Campione is Italian territory completely surrounded by Switzerland. To drive to the rest of Italy, residents must first cross an international border. For years, the town functioned economically with Switzerland, using Swiss francs and Swiss services. But when the local casino closed in 2018, the town's economy suffered heavily. Daily life here involves constant cross-border coordination, different postal systems, different emergency services, different customs rules. It's not physical isolation that defines Campione, it's geographic awkwardness, and it shows how strange European borders can be. 6. Suðuroy's abandoned villages, Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands are famous for dramatic beauty, but on the island of Suðuroy, you'll find villages that are quietly fading away. Places like Víkurbergi once had thriving communities. Today, population, essentially zero permanent residents. Harsh weather, limited jobs, and the pull of larger towns slowly emptied these settlements. What remains feels hauntingly peaceful. Empty houses facing the sea, narrow roads with almost no traffic, and wind that never seems to stop. In the Faroes, the struggle isn't sudden collapse, It's slow migration, one family at a time. 5. Monemvasia Upper Town, Greece. Off the southeastern coast of Greece rises a massive rock island, Monemvasia. At its base, a charming town still lives and breathes, but climb higher, and you reach the upper town. Once heavily populated in medieval times, most of this clifftop settlement is now abandoned. Only a handful of caretakers and seasonal visitors remain. Walking here feels surreal. Stone streets with no footsteps, churches without congregations, houses slowly reclaimed by sun and wind. The daily struggle here isn't weather, it's preservation. Maintaining ancient structures in such an exposed location is expensive and difficult. And without a permanent population, time slowly takes over. 4. Svalbard Remote Outposts, Norway. Far north of mainland Europe lies Svalbard, one of the closest inhabited regions to the North Pole. Across the archipelago are tiny research stations and settlements where populations can drop below 100 people. Here, daily life includes rules found almost nowhere else in Europe. For example, outside the main town of Longyearbyen, carrying a rifle for polar bear protection is common practice. Winters bring months of total darkness. Temperatures routinely fall below -30 degrees Celsius, and supplies arrive by ship or plane only under strict conditions. In some areas of Svalbard, there are more polar bears than people. Isolation here isn't metaphorical. It's environmental reality. 3. Pyramiden, Svalbard. Still in the high Arctic sits one of Europe's strangest ghost towns, Pyramiden. Once a thriving Soviet mining settlement with over 1,000 residents, it was abruptly abandoned in 1998. Today, only about 10 to 20 caretakers and staff remain seasonally. Everything else feels frozen in time. Apartments still contain furniture. The world's northernmost Lenin statue still stands. A piano sits in the old cultural center. The daily challenge here isn't survival alone, it's preservation in extreme cold. Buildings deteriorate rapidly in Arctic conditions, and maintaining the site requires constant effort. Pyramiden is less a town now, and more a time capsule at the edge of the world. 2. Isle of Eigg, Scotland. Compared to the Arctic outposts, the Isle of Eigg might seem almost comfortable. Population, just over 100 residents. But what makes Eigg remarkable isn't just its size, it's how the community survives. In 1997, residents bought the island collectively, and later built one of the world's first community-owned renewable energy grids. Today, nearly all electricity comes from wind, solar, and hydropower. But life here still requires adaptation. There is no bridge to the mainland. Ferries depend on weather. Job opportunities are limited, and winter storms can still disrupt daily routines. Yet many residents say Eigg represents something rare, a modern community choosing to live small, on purpose. 1. Tristan da Cunha, UK Overseas Territory. And finally, the most isolated inhabited place connected to Europe, Tristan da Cunha. Population, about 230 people. Location, deep in the South Atlantic Ocean, over 2,400 kilometers from the nearest mainland. There is no airport, no easy access, and ships may take 6 days to arrive from South Africa. Life here is defined by distance. Medical emergencies require long sea evacuations. Imported goods are expensive and infrequent. Job options are limited mostly to fishing and local services. Even internet connectivity has historically been slow and unreliable. And yet, the community remains remarkably stable. Because for residents of Tristan da Cunha, isolation isn't just geography, it's identity. In a world that feels increasingly connected, these places remind us something important. Not every corner of Europe is crowded. Not every community is easy to reach. And not every way of life has been swallowed by modern speed. From Arctic darkness to Atlantic winds, these are the places where living still requires patience, planning, and a certain kind of quiet resilience. If this journey surprised you, subscribe to TerraSpark for more hidden geography and places most maps barely mention. And tell us below, which of these places would you actually visit?